So in my time in aviation, I've realized that a lot of people would find themselves in a situation where they can't decide if they should pursue a career as a pilot. Now, the reasons that they give are often valid reasons because, everyone's situation and projections of, their future is different, right? So a lot of people find themselves being unable to decide. So my goal in this video is to share with you some insights and the things that I've acquired over time that could help you decide if you should pursue a career as a pilot in 2023 or not. Now, I will tell you a little bit about myself. I am currently an airline pilot and I have been in the industry for about, I would say, 12 years now or 13 years, and professional as an airline for about 7 years or so. Now, if you're new here, my name is Steven, and on this channel, I talk about aviation and I try to share some insights that could help you achieve your goal if that is what you aspire to be as well. So please do not forget to subscribe, and of course, do not forget to like this video. It's free, so please go ahead and do that now. It takes a lot of time and effort to make these videos because, I have a full-time job as well. It's something that I enjoy doing, and I enjoy sharing some of this information with you. By the way, I recently crossed 700 subscribers. That's a lot to me. Thank you. And I appreciate all of you that have subscribed to the channel. Now, one of the things that I often see a lot of people talk about is pay. Now, we know that if you've been following the news, we know that the aviation industry has recently seen much increase in pay, much needed increase in pay. I always look at the days that I got started, and I think I made $23 an hour as a pilot, and that was rough. That was difficult. That was humbling, of course, because I almost made more as an instructor than I made when I joined the regionals. That was something that lasted for maybe a year or so before we started seeing slow increase in pay, and most recently we've seen a very drastic change in pay. So the point here is things have changed, and I do not know how long you have been following the aviation industry and the trends in the industry, but if you have, you know that things have changed when it comes to pay. And the reason why I'm addressing pay is because it's generally the big one that a lot of people consider, and it's you spend a lot of money on your training, getting all these ratings, years and years of, just grinding out, and then you finally think you got to a place where you can then make something good, and then of course you don't make that money. But now that is not the case. So pay is not something I'm going to emphasize too much about because that has changed. But one area that I would emphasize on, which leads me to my second point, is schedule. If you are not familiar, if you do not have people in industry, airline schedules, or it varies depending on the airline you're with, depending on the type of operation they conduct, depending if it's a private or, different sectors of the aviation industry exist. So depending on the airline you're with or the operation you conduct, your schedules can be very flexible depending on who you join. I'll give you a regular example of the passenger world, 121 world, where you have, these airlines like American, Delta, United. Generally, you could have up to between 13 and 16 days off. Now, you can also then choose to drop a schedule. You can choose to pick up more. There's that flexibility involved. And I would get to some part that really emphasizes your ability to manipulate your schedule, which I'll get to in a few minutes. But the point here is, with a schedule like that, you don't necessarily have to grind out, Monday to Friday, because that can be very boring, monotonous, and just draining. Waking up same time, showing up work, doing the same thing, going back home from Monday to Friday. That can be exhausting for people that, for example, if you work in an office or typical jobs. But with the airline schedule, you have, various schedules that will start maybe on Saturday, finish on Tuesday. You have some that will go for 5 days, and they can start from maybe Sunday to Thursday. And if you choose to not want to work on Mondays, you can move your schedule around to fit, your lifestyle. But the point here is there's that flexibility, and there's that constant change that you would experience from month to month, depending on the type of operation you are in. Now, for guys that fly for, corporate, those can be a little unpredictable because sometimes those guys are actually on call all through their schedule. So that means they work from maybe 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, or maybe 3 weeks on, 2 weeks off, depending on the operation. And that means they're on call throughout that 3 weeks or that 2 weeks until they're off again. So it all depends. But the point is, you have options, you have things that can help suit your lifestyle if that's what you're looking for. So let's move on to the next thing. The next thing is travel. Of course, you know that when you fly, you get to travel. That comes with the job. Now, depending on what you're looking for, some people want to see the world. Some people want to fly all over the world, fly different airplanes. And if that's what you're looking for, the aviation industry gives you that. And that is something that I didn't really grow up thinking I want to fly the world, to be honest. And I'm still not. I would rather travel, once in a while, vacation and stuff. But to want to work and see the whole world, that's not something that I kind of thought about, to be honest. So depending on what your own goal is, depending on what your desires are, the aviation industry has that option for you. Some guys are able to go, 1 week around the world or 2 weeks around the world. And some guys are able to do, for example, you fly for like United and Delta and American, you may do like Europe or China or Asia, different parts of the world where you end up flying, do 24 hours or 36 hours layover, and then you fly back and then you're done for that week. And then you're off for another 4 or 5 days. But again, these are all at the peak of the industry, right? But when it comes to like regionals, it's different. You're mostly doing domestic flights. Maybe you do some some Highland flying, and maybe you do some Canadian flying. But much of that flying is within the states. Majority of the flying will be done within the states, which means you are pretty much flying from cities to cities, or from different states to states. The next thing here is benefits. Now, I know that a lot of jobs do offer good benefits, but the aviation industry is a little bit more interesting because, outside of the basic benefits, they offer travel benefits, okay? The travel benefits can let you fly for free majority of the time. Majority of the time also you can have discounted rates where you can buy tickets and actually fly at a cheaper price. The other thing also is, for your family, for your in-laws, or for your relatives, you can often find ability to apply these benefits to them, like body passes and so forth. Now, when we talk about another aspect of benefit is, let's say 401k, retirement benefits. A lot of these major airlines do contribute up to 16% towards your 401k, and they also match. And that is a lot, knowing that that's something that a company is willing to give to you. And also that includes the other benefits that they offer, such as your medical benefits, like I already mentioned, vision, dental, and the other insurances that they provide. So these are all areas that can suit your lifestyle depending on what you're looking for. The biggest part of this video that I think would affect or has an impact on all of this that I've mentioned is seniority. And I think this should have come first, but I intentionally left it towards the end because when it comes to the airlines, your seniority is the golden ticket. Is that ticket that you want to get as soon as you can, which means if you are young and you start with a major, for example, you have a very long career ahead of you. So, for example, let's say you're 30. That means you have about 35 years to work for an airline. Let's say you're 25, you have almost 40 years, right? Now, the average age of the airline pilots, active pilots in the United States is actually about 43.9, about 44 as of 2020. And I believe that number is actually trending downwards. The average age that a lot of people would join majors is 30s, is in the 30s. Of course, you have the guys that are in their late 30s, early 30s. But then you have some exceptions of guys that will join in their 20s, like maybe 27, 25. And you have guys that will join at the age of maybe 50s and 50 something. Now, it all depends, right? There's always exceptions. But the point here is the sooner you can join these airlines, the better for you. The more you can move up in seniority, the more you can have better schedule. And that's something that I said I was going to talk about. So someone that has been with the company for 10 or 20 years will have a better schedule over someone that is just starting out a year or two in. And that is just the nature of the industry. The other aspect to working for an airline is your ability to work from anywhere. If you think about it, you don't have to live in base. You don't have to live where your airline operates out of, if that makes sense. That means you can choose to live anywhere, and as long as you can commute and get yourself to base where you're going to be operating out of, then you're good. And that is something that a lot of jobs do not offer. There's no boring day. That's another aspect to this. There's no boring day when it comes to this job. And that is because every day is different. You have different things you worry about. You have different people to work with. You meet a lot of people. And if you're in the passenger 121 world, then of course you're dealing with all these other groups of people within your airline operation, the ramp agents, the gate agents, the flight attendants, the passengers, your maintenance crew, and so forth. All these groups are people that you guys are working for a common goal, and your interactions would often make for a very interesting day sometimes. My advice to anybody that is trying to start is, when you have all your qualifications and you're trying to choose an airline, choose the one that suits your lifestyle. Find something that suits your lifestyle. You got to remember that, yes, it's nice to chase the money, right? But you also have to remember that you don't want to be frustrated. This is a long-term deal. This is not a short-term deal, right? Unless you're only going to be there for like a year or two, maybe 3 years or 4 years. But anything beyond that, you want to find something that suits your lifestyle for the long term. And that's something that you should seek. So I hope that I've been able to share some valuable information with you in this video. If I have, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe, of course. I will see you in the next.